Chapter 1. The Chase. In the moonlight, she saw the face of a Sandman. His cold eyes, his hard mouth. His finger moved, and she heard the gun explode. The girl's eyes were wild with fear. They shone out of her dirty face. Her knees were covered in blood from the fall. She had a sharp pain in her side from running, but she ran. There was a high lover's moon, and the night was full of dark shadows. The shadows followed her. The shadows could kill her. When did she cross the river? Was it last night or the night before? Where was she now? She didn't know. To her right, she could see a high wall, a nursery. Maybe her baby was there. She moved to the left, into the night black between buildings. She came to another wall. She turned around. Should she go back across the river again? She had to continue, but she wanted to rest. She needed to rest. Wait. She heard a noise. Someone was there in the shadows. It was a Sandman. A silent scream went through her. She tried to climb the wall. She tried to lift her tired body up. Please. Please. But she couldn't do it. The wall was too high. She fell onto the ground, crying. She sat there and looked at the palm of her right hand. A black flower shone there. A few days ago, the light from the flower was a warm blood red. 7 years before that, it was sky blue. And 7 years before that, it was sun yellow. A different color for each 7 years of her life. Now she was 21, and the flower was black. Sleep black. Death black. The man moved toward her in the dark. She looked at her palm because her future and her past were written there. All of her fears and hopes were there. In the past, sanctuary was her hope, her dream. She didn't want to die like the others. She didn't want sleep. She wanted to live. But that was impossible. There was no hope now. The man stood over her. She didn't look up. She knew that it was the end. And so she dreamed. She was not there, a criminal, hated and terrified. She was in sanctuary. It was a warm summer's afternoon. She was lying in the long grass, looking up at the clear blue sky. She wasn't thinking about time. There was no time in this world, no worry. So why did her hand move to the knife under her clothes? Why did she want to push that knife into her heart? Why? The man pointed a gun at her. The Homer. In the moonlight, she saw the face of the Sandman, his cold eyes, his hard mouth. His finger moved, and she heard the gun explode. That was the last sound that she heard. Then there was only pain. Terrible, unimaginable pain. It was the end. Chapter 2. Last day. Doyle threw the terrified girl forward and ran. The tangler net went around the screaming girl and held her tightly. Logan was tired, but the little man didn't stop talking. "You know what it's like," he said. "Nobody does everything that they want to do in their life. All the traveling, all the girls. I'm the same. I'd like to live to 25, 30, but it isn't going to happen. I can accept that. I've lived a good life. I've had good times. I'm not afraid. After I'm gone, nobody will say that Sawyer was afraid." He talked and talked. Logan knew why. If he talked, he didn't have to think. Logan saw this all the time. Everyone talked a lot on last day. Sawyer looked at his palm. The flower was red, then black, then red again. Logan could see the worry in his eyes. "Do you believe the thinker ever makes mistakes?" Sawyer asked Logan. "It doesn't feel like I'm 21. It really doesn't. I remember the day when I became 14. How long ago was it when my flower changed? I'm sure it wasn't more than 5 years ago." Logan wasn't listening. He was thinking about his 14th birthday. "No," said Sawyer, not waiting for Logan to answer. "I'm sure that the thinker doesn't make mistakes." He was silent for a minute. Then, in a quiet voice, he said, "I guess I'm afraid." "Most people are," said Logan. "Well, maybe I am afraid, but I'm not going to run. No, the thinker is right. We have to keep the number of people down. I won't run." The two men sat quietly while the car traveled through the maze. Finally, Sawyer spoke again. "Do you think the Homa is really so terrible?" "Yes," said Logan. "I believe it is." "People say that it feels your body heat. That's how it finds you. Then it burns you. It completely destroys your body in seconds." Logan didn't speak. Sawyer's face was gray. A muscle moved near his mouth. "God," he said, looking down at the floor. Then the color returned to his face. "Of course, it's necessary. Runners have to be punished. They don't have to run, do they? A sleep shop isn't so bad, is it? I saw one when I was 12, in Paris. It was clean and nice." Logan thought of the sleep shops with their brightly painted rooms and restful music. The assistants wore warm colors and spoke softly. And then, of course, there was the drug, hallucinogen. When people took this, their worries left them. Their faces showed only happiness. They moved slowly, as in a dream. Logan thought of the dark rooms downstairs with metal shelves. On those shelves were hundreds of boxes with the names and numbers of men and women on them. "No," he said, "they're not bad." Sawyer was talking again. "But I could never do what those Sandmen have to do. I'm not saying that runners are right. They're criminals. But how can a Sandman use a Homa on a man? How can he do that?" "I get off here," said Logan. He left the car. Logan didn't live in this area. He had a long walk now, but Sawyer was making him angry. He knew this part of the city. He remembered killing a man here. He put the memory out of his mind and continued walking through the crowds of people. People in a hurry, with empty eyes, going nowhere. A young man was sitting on the ground with a sign around his neck. The sign said, "Run." He was trying to give out pieces of paper, but people only shouted at him, "Dirty runner! Trash! You're sick!" The man sat and smiled. Logan took one of the papers and read it. "Do not accept sleep. Run. Men should live their full lives. Don't accept death at 21. A police paravane landed silently near the man. Logan watched two policemen in yellow coats walk toward him. He didn't run. The police took him away, and the paravane lifted into the evening sky. A woman was standing next to Logan. "Thank God for the police," she said. "Those people are crazy. It's terrifying." The sky was dark now, and the evening stars were shining. Logan stopped to watch that evening's Mays news report. A man's face lit up a huge screen on the front of the Mays News building. "Good evening," he said to the crowds. 14 people were killed today during a gypsy gang war in Stafford Heights. Police caught 4 of the gypsies and are looking for the others. They will find them. The man looked very serious and was silent for a minute. Then he continued. "The runner, Harry 7, was caught by police earlier today in the Trancas area. He was sent to hell. His friends were invited to say goodbye, but nobody came. What does that show us? It shows us that we are good people, law-loving people. There is no place for runners in our world, and we must—" Logan stopped listening and moved away. A girl walked toward him. "You aren't happy," she said, putting her hand on his arm. He moved away from her and continued walking. "I can make you happy," she called after him. Happy. Logan thought about the word. She was right, of course. He was unhappy. Words came into his mind. You can't buy happiness. But, of course, in this world, you could. He turned down a side street and started walking toward Robert. The drug palace in Robert was the city's largest, with the best drugs. The friendly, white-coated assistants knew how to give you a great time. They helped you forget. "LF, please," Logan said. "How much would you like?" asked the assistant, a young man. "The usual," he answered. The man took him to a blue room. It was empty except for a large armchair and a small table. Logan sat in the chair and took the drug. "Have a good lift," the man said as he left. Logan closed his eyes for a minute so the drug could work. When he opened them, the room was filled with a terrible light. It was a bad lift. He was falling from a window. A man caught him. "You were running." "That's okay," said the man. "No, I wasn't. I wasn't running. I fell. I fell from a window," Logan shouted. Suddenly there was fire all around him. He ran through the fire. Voices were everywhere calling, "Black flower! Black flower!" Where was his gun? He needed his gun. The man caught him again. "Running again?" He smiled. But now Logan had the gun. Nothing could hurt him. The Homer hit the man, and the world exploded. When he left the blue room, the assistant smiled at him. "You were really lifted. Would you like another one?" "No, thanks." Logan didn't feel better. He left the drug palace and walked toward the colored lights on the glass house. The words shone out at him. Happiness. Dream girls. "Your happiness makes us happy, sir," an assistant said, unsmiling. Logan could see the bodies moving inside each room. The floors and walls were made of glass. Different rooms lit up at different times to show the enjoyment of the men and women inside them. Logan took a girl into one of the rooms. "Lie down," she said, and came onto the glass bed with him. He felt the eyes all around them, watching them. Hours passed. When morning came, Logan got up silently. He left the girl and went back home, to his room. It was time for work. No time to sleep. His muscles hurt. His eyes were red. He took a shower, but it didn't help. He got dressed, put on his long black Sandman coat, and left for work. Francis was waiting for him when he arrived. He smiled at Logan. "You look terrible," he said. "Bad night?" Francis never looked bad. No lifts or glass houses for him. Never before a job. Francis was clear-headed and calm. Why couldn't Logan be like that? Very few Sandmen had Francis's skill and intelligence. He wasn't like other men. He had no real friends. No one knew about any lovers. He had a long, thin body and the black eyes of a wild cat. He was a smooth, silent killer. "And what does he think of me?" Logan often asked himself. "He's always smiling and friendly, but judging every move." They walked toward the gunroom together. Logan was nervous. His hands were wet. He needed his gun. He was always fine with a gun in his hand, chasing a runner somewhere in the city. He felt good when he was doing his job. The two men came to a high metal door. "Names?" asked a computerized voice. Each man put the palm of his hand on the door. It opened and they went into the gun room. Only a Sandman could carry a gun, and no other person could use it. It was too dangerous. Logan checked that his gun was ready. Tangler, Ripper, Needler, Nitro, Vapor, and Homer. All good. He held the gun and felt strong again. Francis and Logan then walked to the report room. A nervous-looking assistant hurried toward them. "We've had a lot of problems today. I can't find Webster 16, and we've got a runner in Pavilion moving east." "Who's going to take him?" asked Logan. "You are," said the assistant.
Francis will help if you need him."
"All right," said Logan. "Give me the information."
Name, Doyle 10 14302. His flower blacked at 5:39. That's 18 minutes ago. He's moving east, but he's not going near the maze. I think he knows about the cameras there. He's moving toward Arcade. Be careful. He's probably dangerous.
Logan pressed the numbers 10-14302 into a computer, and the information on Doyle came up on the screen. Photo, height, age, names of friends. Logan read Doyle's flower history. Yellow, 0 to 7 years. Parented by a machine in a Missouri nursery. Blue, 7 to 14. The usual. Lived in lots of different states. Traveled around Europe. No criminal activities. Red, 14 to 21. Difficult. Problems with police. Attacked a Sandman. 3 girlfriends. One of them tried to help runners. A sister, Jessica 6. No problems with police. Logan studied Doyle's photo. He was a big man, as tall as Logan, dark hair, a strong face. An easy face to remember. Easy to find in a crowd. He took the small black follower from his belt and pressed in Doyle's numbers. Then he returned to Francis. Francis was standing in front of a large screen, watching a moving red light. Doyle. "He's not our usual kind of runner," said Francis. "I've watched him. He knows exactly where he's going. He has information and he's not making any mistakes. Call me if you need help." The chase began. Logan got off the walkway at the main station and saw Doyle getting out of a car. Doyle saw Logan's black coat and ran into the crowds. He was still moving east, toward Arcade. Logan tried to follow him, but Doyle caught another car. Good, thought Logan. He'll run, he'll get tired. He watched him on the follower. The assistant was right. Doyle knew about the cameras in the maze. He was staying above ground and still trying to get to Arcade. Logan showed himself in the crowds. He wanted Doyle to see his black coat. He wanted to scare him. But Doyle knew what he was doing. He continued moving. He stayed in the crowds. The guy's smart, thought Logan. He watched Doyle on his follower. He was very near, coming down in an elevator. Logan moved fast. As the elevator doors opened, Logan lifted his gun. Doyle started to get out and saw him. His face turned white. He couldn't escape the Homer. Logan prepared to shoot and stopped. Why? In that second, Doyle escaped back into the elevator. Down, down. Logan shouted. What happened? Why didn't he shoot Doyle? He watched the red light move south on his follower, then followed the elevator down. When the doors opened, Doyle was holding a young girl in front of him. Logan shot the tangler at Doyle. Doyle threw the terrified girl forward and ran. The tangler net went around the screaming girl and held her tightly. Logan called a police paravane to help her. He then continued after Doyle. There he was, in the crowds again. The Homer couldn't find Doyle in all these people. In a crowd, he had to walk to a runner, press the gun into his stomach, and shoot. But Doyle was too fast. The chase continued. Doyle was moving east again, still trying for Arcade. Logan moved quickly, but Doyle was traveling west now, into Cathedral. This was bad. Logan could lose Doyle there. He called Francis. "He tricked me," he told Francis. "He's not going to Arcade. It's Cathedral. We have to stop him before he gets there. Meet me at the bridge." Cathedral, a dark, ugly part of Los Angeles, full of burned buildings, a place of danger, violence, and sudden death. The home of the Cub Scouts. Logan knew about Cathedral's bloody history. Runners never came out again. The Cubs killed them. When police officers went in there, they, too, were never seen again. Logan found Francis at the bridge. He was hurt. "Doyle hit me from behind," he said. "This guy's dangerous." Logan looked at his follower again. Doyle was very near. Logan looked around and finally saw him. He was running across the bridge, but he kept his head low, protected by the stone side wall. Suddenly, on the other side, there were more shadows moving in the darkness. Cubs! Logan watched them walk toward Doyle. There was something strange about their movements. "They've taken muscle," said Francis. "Where do they get it?" asked Logan. Before the Little War, soldiers took it to make them strong and fast. But they became too violent, so the government stopped the use of the drug. Logan and Francis watched the Cubs move in and attack Doyle. He fell to the ground. The Cubs hit him and kicked him again and again. "We'll try gas," said Francis. They shot the Cubs with vapors. The gas drove the Cubs away from Doyle immediately. He lay on the ground, not moving. "I'll go and check him. You watch for the Cubs," said Francis. But Francis didn't get far. The Cubs came back and started attacking him. Logan shot a nitro into the group and killed 3 of them. He ran to Doyle. The man's face was a bloody mess. He was trying to speak. "Sanctuary," he said. Then his head fell back. He was dead. His hand opened and something fell out. It was a key. Logan quickly put it in his pocket. "Dead?" Francis asked. "Yes," Logan answered. Francis looked down at the bloody body. "He was ours, not theirs," he said angrily. He took out his gun and shot a blister into Doyle's body. The body exploded and disappeared. "Let's go," said Francis. They traveled back to the report room in silence. Logan kept his right hand closed. He didn't want Francis to see the flower in his palm. It was starting to change color. Chapter 3. Logan's Run. Your brother's dead, but we're alive. And if we want to stay alive, we'll have to keep moving. Logan got back to his room late, showered and changed. He pressed Meal search, and dinner and a drink arrived. He sat with his drink and looked at his palm. It was changing from red to black, black to red. Last day. 24 hours to live. He picked up the key, Doyle's key. Did this key take a man to sanctuary? Was there really a sanctuary, a place where runners could escape death? If this is true, thought Logan, I must try to find it. I must destroy it. Then I can be proud of my life. He walked to the communideck, put the key in, and turned it. The screen lit up, and a girl's face looked at Logan. She was about 16, with dead eyes. "Call back later," she said. "I'm going out." "I'm calling now," answered Logan. "Have you got a name?" "Yes." "Are you going to give it to me?" Her eyes began to show some interest. "Sanctuary," Logan said the word. "Who gave you my key?" she asked. "A friend." "I'm going out." "You said that." "To a party." "I can meet you there," said Logan. She studied him for a minute. "Halstead, West End, apartment 2582. I really shouldn't invite strangers. If you aren't strong enough, I'll be in trouble." "I'm strong enough," Logan answered. She said one last thing before the screen went black. "I'm Lilith. I think you'll find me helpful." The party in 2582 was crazy when Logan arrived. A man in an orange suit answered the door. He was drunk. "Come in! Enjoy!" Logan walked past him and looked around the crowded, smoke-filled room. No Lilith. "Here, have one of these." A tall, dark-haired girl was standing in front of him, holding a large glass with something pink in it. "No, thanks." "You men are all the same, afraid of anything new." "Maybe you need a boy," Logan said. "Very funny. I'm 15. I'm a woman and I need a man." "How old are you?" "Old enough," answered Logan. He kept his right hand closed. He could feel the heat of the flower in his palm. "You're unhappy," she said. "I like that. Do you want to spend some time together?" "No. No thanks." Her voice went cold. "Loser." She turned and walked away. Where was Lilith? The door opened and a fat man with a big smile came in. His arms were full of brightly colored clothes. "The stuff's here! Time for fun, everybody!" he shouted. "Did you think I wasn't coming?" Suddenly Lilith was standing in front of Logan, dressed in a tight silver dress and high boots. "Let's talk," said Logan. "You know why I'm here." The fat man ran toward them and pushed purple bodysuits into their arms. "Get dressed and let's spy!" he shouted. "We'll work together," said Lilith. Logan went into the changing room and took off his clothes. His gun was a problem. He couldn't wear it under the skin-tight bodysuit. He hid it at the back of the closet. When he came out, Lilith was waiting for him with a large drink. "Thanks. I need this," Logan said and drank it quickly. The fat man gave everyone cameras. "Happy spying!" he shouted. Lilith and Logan climbed higher and higher inside the building. They looked down into the glass houses, filming the people in them. Logan had to be careful. Spying was illegal, and he didn't want the police to stop him. The police never questioned a Sandman, but he couldn't show the police his gun. He didn't want Lilith to know that he was a Sandman.
"Here, hold my feet. I'm going down," she said. Logan held her feet. Lilith hung upside down outside a window, filming the lovers inside. She was a long way above the ground. Below her was only black emptiness. Did she really know anything about Sanctuary, or did she just love danger? When she finished filming, he pulled her up. "Can't we talk now?" he asked. "You're doing well," she laughed and started climbing again. Logan followed until they got to the roof. "Jump!" Lilith shouted. She jumped off the roof and down onto another building. Logan followed her. "Here's a good one," she said. "You film this time." Logan filmed the people inside. "Great," said Lilith. "Now we talk," said Logan. "Okay, what do you know about Sanctuary?" she asked. "I know that I want to go there." "Where did you get my key?" She watched him carefully. Logan's mouth felt strange. He couldn't stop smiling. "From the same place that all runners get theirs." He started laughing and couldn't stop. What was happening to him? He lifted off the ground. He was in space, flying in space. "Answer the question." Lilith was close, speaking quietly into his ear. Logan was singing a children's song. He was in space, looking down at himself. He watched Lilith hit his face and pull his head back. "The key! Where did you get the key?" Logan's neck hurt. He stood up. Lilith was holding on to him. The world was suddenly filled with orange light that hurt his eyes. "Did you kill Doyle?" Lilith was still there, shouting now. The orange light was warm. He wanted to sleep. "Doyle 10. Cubs killed him," he said quietly. He was lying on the roof of the building now. His body ached. Then he realized, a truth drug in his drink. "What now?" he asked her. "Now you see Doc," she said. "Doc who?" he asked. "You'll find him in Arcade. Look for the New You. That's his place." "That was a great lift, eh?" She was smiling. "Yes, a great lift." A short time later, Logan left the walkway at Beverly Station and moved through the crowds in Arcade. Arcade was a crazy place, always busy, always filled with people. You could find everything there. Sex, drugs, relive stores. Strange sounds and smells were everywhere. Logan walked slowly, looking for Doc's. Then he saw the sign. "The New You. Fast service. Low prices. Great results." Logan went into the store. The waiting room was empty. A bored-looking girl was sitting behind a desk. "You want Doc?" she asked in a tired voice. "I want Sanctuary," answered Logan. The girl took his hand, turned it over, and looked at his palm. "Follow me," she said, sounding bored. Follow me for the new you.
She took him to a large white room. In the middle of the room was a metal bed. Hanging above the bed was a huge machine. Table.
There's not a better one between here and Alaska, said a hard voice.
Logan turned and saw a 16-year-old boy in a long white doctor's coat. So, this was Doc.
You're a little nervous, aren't you? Doc laughed. That's okay. Runners are nervous people. You've come to me early. That's smart. Usually people wait until the Sandman's chasing them. It's so difficult to do good work then. So, what do you want? New face? Body too? What do you think?
Just the face, Logan answered.
Not much time, eh? Runners never have time. I won't ask your name. Don't want to know. You've got the key. That's good enough for me. Ballard knows who to give the keys to.
Ballard, the world's oldest man. The man who, the story said, started Sanctuary.
Holly will get you ready, Doc said. Don't worry about the table. They call me Doc, but I'm good with machines too. All kinds of machines. I can make anything out of anything. Believe me.
While Doc was talking, Holly started to take Logan's shirt off. His gun was inside his shirt. Do I have to take my clothes off? He asked.
No, the girl answered, but empty your pockets.
She then took him to the metal bed. The heavy machine hung above it, with its knives, lights, and switches. Logan was terrified, but he got on. Holly tied his hands and feet to the bed.
Ask him to give you dark hair, she said quietly into his ear. I like it. Anything special? Asked Doc. I can give you almost anything.
You decide. Just do it, Logan answered angrily.
Keep calm, Doc said. You runners are always in a hurry, always pushing me. But you won't go anywhere without Doc. Understand? You can't use the key until 9:30. We have time. Plenty of time for the new you.
He started pulling switches, and the machine began to move down, nearer to Logan. An alarm suddenly sounded, and the machine stopped.
Did you empty your pockets?
He did, Holly answered.
Well, something's wrong, said Doc.
Before Logan could speak, Doc pulled open his shirt.
A gun! We have a Sandman! Lock the door, Holly! He shouted.
You've seen my hand, said Logan. I'm on last day. How can I be a Sandman if I'm running?
You have a gun, said Doc. Only Sandmen have guns.
Okay, but I'm not the first Sandman to run, shouted Logan.
Why should I believe you? Answered Doc. You're going to get more than a new face.
He pulled a large red switch, and the table came to life. Sharp knives lowered from the machine. Logan tried to free his hands, but he couldn't. One of the knives caught his knee. Another cut his right shoulder. Down it came again, cutting the tie around Logan's right hand. Logan reached for his gun, and Doc and the girl ran out of the room. Logan quickly freed his other hand and his feet and jumped off the table. The machine was now attacking the metal bed, metal against metal, screaming. Logan tried to plan his next move. He needed a second key from Doc to continue his run. He had to get him. He kicked open the door and ran through the dark building. Something flew out of the shadows and hit his arm. He dropped his gun. His arm felt like ice. A popsicle. Doc was coming toward him now, holding the shining police ice stick. One hit on your chest froze your body in seconds. Death. Logan waited. When he could see Doc clearly, he kicked him in the stomach. Doc fell to his knees, screaming. Logan gave another strong kick to Doc's head. The boy fell silently to the ground. Logan quickly searched the boy's pockets. No key. Then he heard a noise from the next room. He moved carefully to the door and opened it slowly. Holly was standing against the wall, holding a knife to her heart. She was terrified. Logan lifted his gun to shoot. She pushed the knife into her chest, and the world ended for Holly 13.
Doyle? Doyle, is that you?
A drugged voice came from the darkness. Logan walked farther into the room. A dark-haired young woman was getting up from a bed. Her eyes were sleepy.
It's me, Jessica.
Her fingers carefully felt her new face. A runner, thought Logan. Her hand is changing color. But why does she think I'm Doyle? And did she get the key? Do you have the key? He asked.
Doyle, you don't look like my brother now. You don't even sound the same. They've changed us both.
So, she was Doyle's sister. Listen, said Logan. Do you have the next key? She was completely awake now. He saw her take something silver out of her pocket. A key. Logan took it from her. Did Doc give you any information? Do you know what to do?
Yes, he told us to use a tunnel under Arcade. I know where it is.
All right, let's go. He followed her to an elevator. When they got out, he took her hand and they ran along the maze platform. Logan pushed the key into a call box on the platform. A maze car sped out of the darkness and stopped. The door opened and they climbed in. Where to? Asked the car.
Sanctuary, said Jessica.
The car sped through the maze tunnels. When it stopped, Jessica didn't move.
They can change the color of a man's eyes, but they can't change the man inside. You aren't my brother, she said.
He's dead, Logan told her. Jessica's face became hard.
You killed him.
No, but I saw him die. He gave me his key. He wanted me to have it. Jessica started to cry quietly. Logan didn't know what to say. A Sandman doesn't feel sorry. He does what he has to do. Listen, your brother's dead, but we're alive. And if we want to stay alive, we can't stop moving. Please exit, said the car. They got out and the car sped away. They looked around slowly. This wasn't Sanctuary. But where was it? Why were they here? It was a dark, ugly, dirty place. Trash lay everywhere. What now? Logan asked himself.
Listen,
Jessica said. They heard a small child's voice in the maze tunnel, singing a children's song.
Sandman, Sandman, go away. Don't come back another day.
A small girl in a dirty dress walked slowly onto the platform. Her face was dirty, and her hair was a mess. She had thin little legs and wore no shoes.
Don't be afraid, she said. I'm Mary, Mary too.
Logan stepped out of the shadows. What are you doing here?
Oh, he told me to meet you.
Who did? Logan asked. The little girl's eyes became big and round.
He did. The old man.
What old man? Jessica asked.
You know, he's the oldest man in the world.
Ballard. The little girl took a key from her pocket.
He told me to give you this.
Do we use it now? Logan asked her. The little girl didn't speak. She put her hands up and showed 10 fingers. A yellow flower shone in her right hand. 10 o'clock, said Jessica. Logan checked the time. We have 12 minutes. Jessica looked into the little girl's eyes.
Where do you live, Mary, Mary? Here,
answered Mary, Mary, smiling.
Why aren't you in a nursery? I'm very smart. But don't you get hungry? You can catch things to eat. I'm really fast, but I never go upstairs. The bad people are there. They chase you.
Cubs, thought Logan.
Goodbye now. You're a nice old lady,
Mary, Mary said to Jessica, and she walked away. She shouldn't be here, said Jessica. Alone in a place like this? She should be in a nursery with other children. A nursery can protect you. Did it protect you? Were you happy? Asked Logan.
Yes, Jessica answered. Of course.
She sat on the ground and rested her head on her knees. No, I wasn't, she said after a minute. I thought that everybody lived that way. I was never really happy there. Children should be with their parents. Brothers and sisters should be together. She looked up at Logan. And you? When did you begin to think that sleep was wrong? I don't know, really. I heard the stories, of course. About Ballard? And about Sanctuary. Oh, I wanted to believe those stories when I was a little girl. Suddenly there was a scream from the tunnel. Mary, Mary ran out, chased by a gang of cubs. A wild-looking 13-year-old was at the front.
Bad people! Bad people!
She shouted and ran into Jessica's arms.
What do we have here? Runners,
said the oldest cub. 5 minutes, thought Logan. We only have 5 minutes. You're older than the others, aren't you? He asked to the boy at the front. You'll be 21 one day. What will you do then? You'll run, just like us.
I'm not a runner. Never will be.
The boy took something out of his pocket and put it into his mouth. Muscle. He ran toward Logan.
Kill him! Get him!
The other cubs shouted. 4 minutes. Logan couldn't fight them all. He had to use the gun. He took it out and shot a nitro. It exploded into the group. Body parts flew everywhere. You're a Sandman, shouted Jessica. There was hate in her eyes. 2 minutes. Logan ran to a coal box and put his key in. A maze car sped toward them, stopped, and opened its door. Get in, Logan shouted to Jessica. He pushed her into the car, and it raced away into the night. Chapter 4. An Ocean World. "Now, put your gun on the floor," he said. Logan slowly and carefully did what Whale asked. In the late 90s, before the Little War, the big problem was food. People had too many children. They lived too long. The great green earth could not fill their stomachs and became tired and dry. Millions suffered and died. So people went into space, but the worlds there were cold, with strange, dangerous gases. Then there were the oceans, beautiful blue water, wild in places, bringing happiness and life. But below this, far below, there was another world, a dark ocean world. This was where people built their new city of steel and glass. They called this new world Molly, the Queen of the Oceans. She covered hundreds of kilometers. She took years to build. She gave work and homes to 20,000 scientists and their families. She gave food and electricity to the world. Until 6:03 p.m. on March 6, 2033. Then a small movement in the earth cracked Molly's steel. Water came through, destroying more than 1,000 buildings in minutes. 14,000 men, women, and children were killed. This was the beginning of Molly's long war with the ocean. The maze car arrived at Molly, and the seats unlocked.
"Exit, please."
Jessica looked up out of the car with wide eyes. She followed Logan onto Molly's platform without a word. The great Pacific pushed against the plastic glass all around them. The air smelled old. There were strange sounds like small explosions. Why are we here? Under the ocean, thought Logan. As Jessica's surprise left her, he saw the hate return to her eyes. "Yes, I've got a gun," he said. "And back in my room there's a black Sandman's coat. But now I'm a runner, like you." "Sandmen don't run," she said. "And Sandmen don't eat, and Sandmen don't get tired. Well, I'm tired and hungry, and hate it." She looked at him coldly. "You're a murderer. You've chased and killed people like my brother. They were good people. They only wanted to live." "I didn't kill your brother," Logan said. "Maybe not, but you wanted to. That's your job, isn't it?" He had no answer. "I hate you. I hate all of you," she shouted. "You Sandmen live by pain. You never think about how wrong your job is. You love using your guns to burn people. You and your world are sick, and I—" Her words cut him like knives. Logan hit her hard across the face. She put up a shaking hand to stop the blood. Her flower was black. "It's changed," said Logan. "You're on black." Without thinking, he reached for his gun. Jessica's face showed that she was terrified. He stopped. He didn't know what to do. He was a runner, but he was a Sandman too. In that second, Jessica ran off down the platform. "Jessica!" he shouted after her. The girl ran. Upstairs, hundreds of metal stairs, along glass tunnels with all kinds of ocean life swimming around them. At the end of one tunnel, there was a large steel door. She threw herself at it and tried to open it. The sound of a gun stopped her. A loud voice shouted, "You! Stop! If you open that door, the ocean will take us both!" She turned. Standing in front of her was... what? A man? He was huge. His head touched the top of the tunnel. His face was like a moon, with two small eyes pushed into the fat. His mouth was large and blood red, and his body... He stood there holding his gun. This was Whale. "Look behind you!" Jessica pointed down the tunnel. Logan was running toward them. When Whale saw Logan's gun, his face went red with anger. "What's this? I thought that 2 runners were coming. Runners don't chase runners." "He's a Sandman!" shouted Jessica. Whale stopped to think. There was another small explosion. Another part of Molly was falling into the ocean. "I'm a runner," said Logan. "I've tried to tell her, but she doesn't believe me." "So, why should I?" Whale asked. He lifted his hand and opened his thick fingers. Logan could see the black of his flower. Whale pointed his gun at Logan. "Now, put your gun on the floor," he said. Logan slowly and carefully did what Whale asked. "Okay, now let's take a little tour of Molly," Whale said. He took them back down the tunnel. "You drylanders don't know about Molly. She's a real fighter. She's like me. She doesn't die easily." They moved slowly through glass tunnels and along moving walkways. They saw the cracks in the steel, with the water slowly coming in. How much time did Molly have? Whale took them farther and farther down. The water inside was getting deeper. It was halfway up their bodies now. They came to another heavy steel door. Whale slowly pulled it open and pushed Logan into a small, dark room. "Molly's sick down here, and fighting hard," he said. "This wall's going to break soon." He put his hand against it. "You've seen hard times, girl, but I've brought you help." He turned to Logan. "If you want to live, you'll help Molly fight. Keep your body against this wall. Give us all some more time. When it goes, you'll go with it." "Wait! You're not leaving him here," shouted Jessica. "Molly needs him," Whale said. "But you're as bad as he is. You're a killer." "A man kills to save himself." Whale pushed past her and closed and locked the heavy door. Outside, he gave her a key. "Use this at 10:40 for your next car," he said. "Hurry now. You know where the platform is." Jessica looked at him white-faced. "Molly's calling. I have work to do." He turned, moved back along the tunnel, and disappeared. Logan stood in the wet, dark space. His last hope was gone. He was a dead man. Now he knew how runners felt. He knew their fear. He moved slowly along the walls in the dark and tried to find the door. He couldn't find a way out. "Maybe this is my punishment," he thought, "for all the pain I've brought." He could feel the Pacific pushing against the wall. Suddenly the door opened. "Jessica!" "Quick," she said. "There isn't much time." They ran. "Sanctuary," they said to the maze car. But it didn't take them to Sanctuary. It took them to hell. Chapter 5. Hell. When Logan held Jessica close, he began to feel... What? Was this the beginning of love? Hell. The perfect name for this world. Thousands of kilometers of ice and snow. The coldest place on Earth. Criminals were sent here. There was no need for guards. No one ever walked out of hell. When the maze car arrived at the platform, an alarm sounded. The car immediately filled with gas. Jessica and Logan were drugged into a deep sleep. Logan woke up first and looked slowly around him. Everything was white and so cold. What was this place? Not sanctuary. The icy wind cut into him. The maze platform was gone. They must find a warm place. He woke Jessica up and put his arms around her. The wind was growing stronger, an ice storm. They started moving. After hours of trying to make their way through the storm, Jessica fell. Logan shouted at her, but her eyes were closed. She didn't move. She should open her eyes. If she doesn't open her eyes, she'll die. But maybe, just for a minute, I'll close my eyes. Yes, rest. Just for a minute. Logan closed his eyes too, and slept. When he woke up, they were out of the storm, in a huge ice palace. It was beautiful. All around them were beautiful shapes of animals and birds cut from ice. It was warmer in here. Some kind of fish oil was burning. Jessica opened her eyes. She sat up in surprise as she looked around. "Wonderful, isn't it?" said a voice. Something was standing in front of them. It had long metal legs and a strangely shaped metal body. One of its hands was a metal cutting tool. Half of its head was a man's, and the other half was made of metal. "A talking machine!" shouted Jessica. "No, my dear. You're wrong. Not a machine, not a man either. I am the best of both. Perfect science. I am Box. I have the heart of a man and the skill of the greatest of machines. No man can produce the things that you see here. Don't you agree?" So this was Box. Logan knew the stories about him. A crazy half-man, half-machine. He never slept. He was never cold or hungry. He lived alone in this world of ice and storms. He had no need of others. "Can you help us?" asked Logan. "We need food." "Ah, you people! Is that all you think about? Your stomachs?" "Yes, we're people and we're hungry," said Logan. "I don't need food," said Box. "Art is my food. Art is the only thing I need." Jessica looked around the shining world again. "It is beautiful," she said. "Wait until the storm winds come," said Box excitedly. "Then my palace is filled with beautiful music. My art comes to life. You should see it. But men don't understand this. They chase me. They only want my metal. They want my legs for knives, forks, and spoons. What use are forks and spoons here? No man can exist here. I've watched them die. So many of them. But now, here are two fresh ones. Very nice ones, too. I will make you into art." "If we do this for you, will you give us food?" asked Logan. "I have no food," said Box. "Then why should we do it?" asked Logan. "Because My world will exist for thousands and thousands of years. It will still be here when your world has disappeared, and now you will be a part of it. Two beautiful lovers formed in ice who will never die. We only need two things, said Logan. Food and a way out of here. You have no food and there is no way out of here, so no. Ah, but there is a way out, said Box. Then why are you still here? Asked Logan. Leave my world? Asked Box. This beautiful place? This silence? For what? Your wars? Your dirty, crowded cities? Your sickness? Box closed his eyes. There is a great mind of steel that is the government of the maze, and I am its brother. I know its ways. I can leave hell. Are you talking about the thinker? Asked Logan in surprise. Yes, high up above the Black Mountain, Tashunka Wheatco. Crazy Horse Mountain. So that was where the thinker was. So, I will tell you how to leave this place, and you will help me make my art. Do we agree? Logan looked at Jessica and then spoke. Okay, we'll do what you want. Box drew them a map and then began to give them orders. Stand over there, together, he said. Jessica and Logan moved to the middle of the room. Box stood in front of a large piece of ice and began to sharpen his cutting hand. Now, take your clothes off. No, shouted Jessica. You are lovers! You must be together, in love, he shouted. A prince and his princess. Do what he says. Don't worry, Logan said to Jessica. They slowly took their clothes off. Put your arms around her. Look into her eyes. Haven't you ever been in love? Do I have to tell you everything? Shouted Box. When Logan held Jessica close, he began to feel... What? Was this the beginning of love? Her sweetness, her warmth. He felt a great sadness. She looked into his eyes. Was she feeling the same? Suddenly all the pain, the fear, disappeared. The maze, the thinker, sanctuary, all forgotten. The only important thing was the two of them, here, now. Finished! Look, you're beautiful, Box shouted happily. Logan sadly took his arms from Jessica, and they turned to look at themselves. Yes, they were beautiful. But there was no time to think about love or art. They had to get out of there. Logan started to put on his boots, but then something hit him on the back of his head, and everything went black. When he woke up, Box was speaking. And death is also art. You will die beautifully, my dear. Slowly. Logan felt a sharp pain in his head as he turned toward the voice. Then he saw Jessica. She was swimming, terrified, in a clear pool of water with very high sides. There was no way that she could climb out. Box was moving a small, oil-burning stove away from the pool. It's surprising how slowly water freezes, even here, said Box. But don't worry, my dear. When the water freezes, you won't feel much pain. You'll slowly go to sleep. Woman in ice, beautiful in death as you are in life. He didn't see Logan beginning to move. Logan reached into his shirt, pulled out a pack of muscle, and took it. He felt the heat passing through his body. He jumped up and ran to the pool. "Logan!" Jessica shouted. He reached down into the pool, caught Jessica's hand, and pulled her up. "Run!" he shouted. "Ah!" Box was running towards Logan. His cutting arm was sweeping from side to side, ready to cut Logan in two. Logan got out of the way in time, but Box couldn't stop his arm. It hit a huge ice plate that held up the roof. The arm cut through the plate, and the roof began to fall. Logan ran. Box's arm was still caught in the plate, so he couldn't move. His ice world came crashing down on him. Logan heard Box's last cries as he ran. Logan and Jessica tried to find the way out, but the map was a lie. What now? They were in a huge white space. Everything looked the same. They kept trying, moving to the left, then to the right. Ah! Suddenly, they were out and standing on the maze platform again. Logan quickly called for a car, found his gun, and checked it. The nitro was finished, but the Tangler, Ripper, Needler, Vapor, and Homer were still working. "Where to now?" asked Jessica. "To Crazy Horse Mountain," he said. "If we want to find Ballard and Sanctuary, we have to go to the Thinker."